自体が
Yes?
Yeah.
I'm the first one to win.
You're the first one. Happy you.
Shit.
Complete day for yourself. Think about that. It's like going to the dentist. It will be over. Okay, baby Ruth, you're the first one. The floor is yours.
Well, hello, good morning. My name is Baby Ruth. I'm a documentary journalist from the Philippines. Before I start my story, I'd like to share a quote that I heard from one of the screenings here at Birthday from a movie by Ricky Pan. It's just a soundbite of an interview, and it says, "Hunger makes a boy become a man." And my story is not about physical hunger, but it's about hunger to dream, hunger and struggle to make a spot in history. And my story is about a boy, a 10-year-old boy, who needs to pass a series of tryouts for the first ever formed football national team in the Philippines. And this dream is also the dream of his father, who used to be a former athlete himself but didn't quite make it. Now you might think, next slide please. Yeah, that's the boy, and the title is The Boy with No Shoes. And you might think, what's so special about the boy? Next slide, please. You know, we've heard about children, football stories of playing for the national team, and you know, stories in Africa and China. But this boy is about to have a chance in history to be part of that history in the making. Because right now in the Philippines, it's the first time that we're forming the football national team. And this, if ever I make it, this will be the first feature-length documentary about that history in the making. And that is my story. So I'd like to share a trailer about that.
What we're trying to do. Don't we? Because this is the champion field. Importante yung respeto sa sarili at saka respeto mo sa teammates mo kahit sinong tao, di ba? Hindi na talagang artsy, sa laro. Walang tako. At saka yung ganito din, may diskarte talaga yung bata. Siguro pinanganak yan para mag-football lang. You guys are the best in this country. Okay? You guys are representing the Philippines. You guys are representing 100 million people. At your age, you guys are the best in the Philippines.
idea about football. Just recently, where the world is going crazy about football. 2012, all of a sudden, we beat one of the strongest team in Asia, Vietnam. And that moment, it opened a can of dreams back home. So imagine, next slide please. Imagine different boys who don't have shoes. They started to play football on the street. And since we don't have football, they use volleyballs to pretend, you know, and we don't have really decent football fields. So yeah, the kids play everywhere. And next slide please. And Kano, that's my subject, and his friends are one of those boys who got inspired to, you know, to become football players themselves. But like football, which seems to be an easy sport, you know, have a ball and you have a goal. It's not that simple for himself, because he needs to, you know, to make it to the team, and there are conflicts as well about himself, because he comes from a poor background. Next slide, please. And there are conflicts, like family conflict, because his father, who was an athlete before, wants his Kano to be a swimmer, because his sister is a member of the national team for swimming, who has won a lot of medals. So you can see some sibling rivalry there, here and there. And of course, there's also the problem of the quality of training that they're having. Will they make it or not in the end because of these struggles? And of course, it's a tryout, so they have to make it to the final round. Next slide, please. So this one, he made it on the first tryout, so he was able to join the training in the UK, which we had a chance to follow. So there we also see conflicts about, you know, the competition among these children, because in the end, in the next year, they will finalize the member of the national team. And we see different players from different backgrounds in the society. Some have better training than Kano, and Kano, you know, dealing with different stories within the training camp. So, so that's this pressure will build the character of the boy. So on my final note, you know, why do I want to tell this story? Because sports is one thing that unites our country, my family when they're still around. When I was growing up, we used to watch basketball, and we have this famous motto: "Never say die." Never say die. It's like sports became our inspiration to keep on. And yeah, I hope through this story, you know, we could inspire everyone, and we could tell the world that maybe the Philippines is ready for this kind of thing. Maybe we are ready. So right now I'm in production of the film. I started filming last year, so we'll be officially filming 1 year this July. So there are a series of tryouts happening now. So my co-cinematographer, who is an amazing Steadicam operator, is the one filming in the South right now. And I hope, yeah, we could build partnership and collaboration with this project, so we could really find the heart and the locality of the story.
Well,
Some questions?
some questions.
Great pitch, lovely story. I'm just interested to know, you talk about a national team, but he's 10 years old, and your national team would be adult, I would imagine.
There is a, yeah.
So what is the gap between him at 10 or 11 when he goes through his trials and when they actually go to international contests?
They're eyeing the World Cup for 2019 for under 17 category. But before they could be part of the under 17, they have to train under 12, under 14, under 16. So it's a series of training, picking, you know, removing player, adding a new one. And then next year, which is the Asian Football Cup, it's very, very crucial, because whoever wins in the Asian Football Cup, which will happen in Malaysia, they will qualify for the World Cup for the 2019. So
But
next
he would
year,
not be part of that team.
he will, because he's 12, he's 10 right now, he's part of the under 12, 11 this year, 10 last year, 11 this year. So he will compete. If he makes it to the national team, he will compete next year for the Asian Football Cup. for the under 14 category.
So how long do you intend to follow the boy? I think he's a great character, and the family is obviously strong, and you've got good access and very interesting characters there. How long do you aim to follow your character?
Initially, I'm seeing 2 years, at least until the Asian Football Cup. If he makes it to the final team, we will find out by next year if he will make it or not. If he makes it, then we'll film until the Asian Football Cup, because if they win or not, we know that they will make it to the World Cup, and we don't really need to see what will happen, but we'll see. I never know. Maybe I'll decide, okay, let's wait for the World Cup, or maybe that's another film. But
Sure.
For now, it's 2 years, sir.
Yeah, I have another question because we didn't hear him talk. I just saw him. How would you describe it? Is it we are talking feature-length film? It was mainly this one character, so he has to be a fairly strong character.
Yeah, he's a naughty boy.
So
Yeah.
how would you describe him?
He's a charming, naughty boy, and the reason why we got to notice him is because he's a, how do you call it, like a clown. He always makes mistakes. He's good, but he's sort of like confused, about his place in the team because he's very young. And other children or members of the team, they tease him all the time. But he knows what he wants. He talks and he knows what he wants. We have long interviews of him talking about his dreams, talking about how he sees it as a game at this time. But of course, he doesn't really see it, the big picture, like the pressure of how big is the football industry in the world. For him, it's just a game. And for him to be part of the national teams is a big deal for him because he wants to wear the uniform. And these boys, their uniform, they're not allowing other people to watch their uniform. It's very important for them. They're the ones watching it.
One final question.
One final. Well presented. My interest is really in the conflict. How far do you see yourself pushing the issue of the conflict? You talked about the personal conflict and the family conflict, but you also implicated the country, the Philippines, in his struggle. It's the first time that football. So how far are you going to push the whole issue of the struggle from within the very specific country that this new game is being?
Right. That's a very interesting question, and I just want to be able to capture the situation at the moment, the quality of the training that we have, because right now it's just it's an experiment, not just an experiment, but it's an experiment. So we're seeing a lot of trial and error. There are coaches being hired from Spain, but that doesn't really actually work because we're copying the way the Spanish are playing football, and there are issues as well with the coaches, because other coaches are preferring that we do the Japanese way because it's more Asian. So those interesting conflicts, small conflicts that build if we're ready or we're not ready. So we'll find out if we are really ready.
Well, thank you very much. I'm afraid time is up. There's always a limited time for questioning. Thank you very much, baby. Relax. It's always hard to be the first. Can I ask to the floor, Saigon Khan? Ask one question. Okay, good luck. Floor is yours.
Hi, my name is Saigon Khan. I'm from Myanmar. Apart from filmmaking, I do street photography. Before I show my trailer, I want to tell you something about the background story of my project. I started this project as the idea to capture different people from the different places of Yangon, the former capital city of our country, Myanmar. The project title is Yangon Life. And then after I keep shooting for a while, I noticed that I kept going, rather than going to the other places, I kept going to train again. And I discussed with my friend and asked for their suggestion. They told me that your project is not Yangon Life, it's Yangon Train. If you want to do Yangon Life, you have to go another place. Stop shooting train. But I didn't want to do the Yangon Train because my very close friend is already made one. So I made this trailer, first made trailer for the Yangon Life, but after I discussed with my mentor, I decided to do a Yangon train, but the working title is Train of Thought. So this is my, but originally this is for Yangon Life, but this is how we're gonna see in my film.
大家အများကြီးရှိတယ်။တောင်မသိနိုင်။သွားလာနေတာတောင်မသိနိုင်။အဲ့တော့ဘယ်လိုခေါ်မလဲ။ဒီမိသားစုဆိုအခုမှမရှိဘူး။လိုပဲသွားတယ်။တူပါကြောက်။ကျသားနဲ့စားတဲ့အခါမှာ9ယောက်လို့ဝမ်းမနေဘူး။ငပိနဲ့စားတဲ့အချိန်မှာတိုးစရာမရှိမှဝမ်းနေတာ။သဘောဟုတ်မလား
Why I choose the train? Because I see the train is a metaphor of love, a metaphor of a country, an old train, and it tells the situation of our people. And why I think is love, it's very attached, and it's like the engine and the cars at the back, two rail track, very long track connected with the tires. So I have now three potential characters. One is the astrologer. We first saw them at the very first, the senior guy who traveling each day on the train, and he worked as an astrologer on the train. And the second is the girl who sell the ground peanuts. Have a boyfriend, not married yet. And the third one is the final one is the police, who work as a security guard on the train. As you see, his job is only listen to the radio, but got nothing to do because we are pretty safe on the train. So I'm going to link up three people the basic question about love, because it is very sensitive to talk about political stuff in our country. So I want to ask, what is his favorite love song for the police guy, and
I'm concerned about the style and that will determine the structure of your film, because I feel that I can hear a different story from what is being shown, and that's quite understandable. So is this a kind of an observational film, or as we have seen in the beginning, there's talking and these three characters will be talking, or will it be more left like an impressionistic observational film?
And the interview will be on the train. Yeah, but it will keep going on the train, like an observational.
Mm-hmm. And with interviews cut in between.
Yes.
How do you see this? What would you envisage, however it happens then in reality, to the storyline to develop, to kind of carry through a length of a film? How do you want to make it more in depth? What do you envisage?
Can you simplify your question?
Well, you want to make a long film. So when you make a long film, it's very much about going deeper into a subject. So where do you think the development of your story could possibly be? Like what's in the beginning, what's in the middle, what's in the end?
I want to make a 30 minutes.
30 minutes? Okay. Nevertheless, what do you think? How will the story develop?
It's a kind of observation, but actually I started making this documentary just to portray the train, but finally I want to put at the interview, but I lost. Lost.
That's okay. Maybe I can take that bit.
Yes.
You've got three characters, right? How, and you want to link them around one story. Is the train the story, or are they?
The journey is the story.
The journey is the story. And your three characters are on this train.
Yes.
And that's the linkages, because otherwise they don't know each other, do they?
No. They don't know each other. The journey is the story, but I don't go in depth about their life. I put their thoughts on the train.
So does it start when the train starts and end
start in
the train ends?
Yeah, it's just a train looping.
Any more? I see the jury is a little bit puzzled. Maybe one more question.
No, I think it's quite clear.
Yeah.
You've got a story arc, a narrative, and we just get to know these characters through their journey on the train and get a glimpse into their particular lives as they travel.
My only concern is that the narrative arc may be different from a dramatic arc, and that is I think one concern we have, because a narrative arc is you just tell the story, but whether something really develops, as what Bettina was trying to say, that somehow the characters would lead us into something deeper. But you have immediately answered it, that it's kind of the surface. But I'm afraid it might be superficial. That it is merely a very impressionistic film. But again, that is your style. That's why I asked. So what seems to be the style? We respect that.
Yeah, I just thought everybody else who will be presenting, I'd really like to know when you start how long you're intending your film to be. That's for me important. So maybe you can mention when you start.
Understand the duration of the film.
Yes.
Very important. Just give them an impression how it will evolve during the screen.
And of course, after this, we can start talking to them individually, right? If we have individual concerns.
Of course, yes. Of course. During the break, you can talk with them individually. Okay?
Great.
You're set? Mark?
Maybe, I don't know, I just wanted to say something, just because this is still a training and some immediate feedback maybe from us who saw the pictures yesterday, just very briefly, when they asked the question came to Baby Ruth, what about your main character? Yesterday you told me you went through a long selection process until you found your character. You should have said that then to make sure, look, this is not just some boy. He's really the best of 12 boys that I've looked at. That would have helped the jury to understand that you have a real strong main character. And for Sai, trailer a bit too long, took away your time to talk more about your story. And yesterday you told me like your story, the development will be with diving deeper into the national psyche of Myanmar, and we learn about these people's lives as a snapshot, but it will tell us something more and more about the country and where this transforming society is going with their hopes and aspirations. So that's definitely a story that you should have mentioned in your pitch. This is a strong asset of what we can learn, what we will take away from your film after we've watched it.
Okay, it's yours.
Thank you. First, I would like to tell you a little bit because my story, my title, I changed from Kowi to another name, another title. So before I gonna start my my project, I will introduce myself a little bit. I'm Anulek from Laos. I have been working as a camera editor, director, filmmaker almost 5 years, and now I will work in a new project. The title is Me, My Mom, and Her Laos. The story about a girl who was adopted and raised by Chinese family, but decided to be left alone when her Chinese family left with the fears of the communists who were taking over the kingdom of Laos. Under the communist government, there was no political freedoms. 100 people were depressed. Free education, remote parts of the countries. So many died. So many was kept up for 10 years. The economy of the country is getting worse. In 1970s, in 1970s, almost 25% of Lao people they flew to another countries. But my mother, she decided to stay in Laos because she was afraid that she would never return to Laos again. Yeah, that's why for me as a filmmaker, I would like to do this project to discover my mom's stories, because I believe that a story should be told by someone, and the person should be me. Yeah. This is my trailer. Please take a look.
สำหรับพวกป่ากับลูก6 เดือนอยู่ในศูนย์เดือนที่7มันจังไดมาสหรัฐ
โอ้รู้สึกขันมีแต่ว่าโอ้หนาว
แหล่งกระซาเฮ็ดได้มันน่ะอันนี้มันจะดอกเพิ่นจอยทุกแนวเลย เมืองฝรั่งจะไปน้ำบ่ไปน้ำเด้อขึ้นรถไปแล้วแบบนี้มาขอมาลายนี่มีมันซะหอดมาถึงเด้อนมไปอันสวรรค์ไปเด็กหนึ่งสั่นแน่เด้อก็ไม่ได้ทางเขาอันนี้บ้านชิ้นใหญ่วันนี้บ้านข้างน้องอันนี้
Now I'm still in the state of research, and the film I will use the archive film, and I will use my voiceover, the conversation with my mom, and the location I will filming in my house or somewhere, and the landmark of Laos, and my cousin's house in French. I have a plan to go to French, yeah, and about the duration of the film is allowed 32 minutes. I have a plan to start shooting again in the middle of this year until allowed 2006. I hope I got the budget allowed $30,000 and I'm still looking for the producer, editors, and some fund to help this project happen. Thank you.
Do you have an idea? Again, I'm always concerned with the way you structure your film. Do you have already an idea of how much archival footage will compose the 32-minute film? How much will be the interview, maybe? And will there be other things like reenactments? And
I have already, because at the beginning I think I'm gonna film my mom with the river or something. Let's be relaxed about the
in-laws.
Yeah, the relax, and because river with my mother is something like deeply that people can tell you like stories or can like school what happened, and then the story gonna be like this.
And then the archival footage will come
coming, and then and I think the end of this film I will bring my mom telling about the story and bring her to French, because I want to know why she didn't go to French. And if you go to France, what happened? You still regret it or something? Because I already know the something that she decided why she didn't go. I want to just leave it and do something for my mother, and for I think the history should be told. Yes, because in Laos we didn't have much documentary film, so only the promo film. Why don't I start first? Something, yeah.
Yes, any more questions?
Yes, your main question in the film, because I think this main question is very important because it's going to form your structural narrative. Your main question is, why did your mother not leave Laos during this time of conflict? Yeah. Correct?
Yeah.
Your trailer is a bit confusing because it deals with so much United States, France, and you're not quite sure what's going on. That's one part. But the other thing is you talk about me, my mother, and her nails. So how much of it is about you and your relationship with your mother, or how much about your mother and the history? Because those are, in a way, two different things, and you need to make a decision which direction you're going to take.
I want to tell you because I use some material from the YouTube about the people. This is just like the simple of how to gonna interview people or some my cousin or something. Yeah, those couple is not my cousin, okay. But just I use for this for it's gonna be like this or something, because this is still research. Still research. I didn't start filming yet.
But how much would it be between you and your mother? How much of that is part of the film? Your relationship with her?
I mean, how much can I be in the film?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I will. Because I have a cameraman who's gonna start doing this project maybe. Because before that, I think I'm gonna shoot by myself, but I think it's not correct. I should be on the film and somebody help me with the camera. Then they can showing experience between me and my mother.
So it's a personal narrative. You started off telling us this as a personal narrative. So it's a question you asking very much. I think that needs to come out quite clearly. It's your search for something against the background of your mother not leaving Laos. That's the kind of impression I'm getting.
Yeah, maybe also because I'm also running, maybe I would like to ask this question. If you could put it in one sentence, how did it affect you that your mother didn't leave? On top of the fact that you are now grew up in Laos and not in the Western country, but how did it emotionally affect you, the story of your mother?
Because I think the effect is about the relationship between my mother and her cousins.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Soraya, and this is my direct.
Can you speak up a little bit, sir?
Okay, my name is Soraya. I'm a producer of this film. The working title that we are having at the moment is called Breathless. And this is my director, Wattanaphum Laiswanchai. Both of us is a filmmaker from Thailand, Bangkok. A story that we are going to present to you today is a story about a projectionist that has been living inside the last standalone cinema in Bangkok for over 25 years. And the story begins at the last day of the screening because this cinema theater doesn't make any money and the owner decided to stop the business. So consequently, this projectionist loses his job, but he still refused to leave the cinema theater. The film that we want to do depicts the mental world of cinema, where the spaces of the cinema theater give us illusion and fantasy, as well as the projectionist that it seems almost as if he lives inside an illusion of cinema. What he can remember is just only one world of cinema. He does not know how to deal with the outside world. So this film is about how reality confronts with illusion, why we see the cinema theater is about to be demolished. I'm going to show you the trailer of the film.
In the length?
The length is going to be 60 minutes. And 60 minutes, yes. We're going to show you the trailer of the film, about 3 minutes, and then my director is going to give you more details about the project.
ตั้งแต่เราเป็นหนุ่มจนเรามีลูกสาวอายุ18น่าจะตอนนั้นอายุ27 28นะจนลูกพี่อายุ18ปิดตุ่มเลยโอเคแล้วมันไม่ไหวจริงนะแล้วพี่อยู่กับเมียนี่น้อยมากเมื่อก่อน5 เดือนกลับบ้านที10 บาทเนี่ย
shooting from the last day of the ending of the screening in this theater. How I approach the character is I spent 1 year to live with him. It's like we are like a friend, and it's like observe precisely to his daily life to see what is his conflict in his mind. So what I found is like it's like because he lived in here 25 years, and so he worked here, and he has twice for a year that he go back to hometown. It's like it's have like this connection between his relationship with himself and his family. So it's like he cannot go back, to start a new job with his family. So now in the end of this year, around the end of this year, the theater will be demolished. So the film will capture, the next moment of his journey, what is going on to be. It's like he lost the place between two spaces. My objective for this film is like I want to capture that memory before this will display how also the projections and also the theater.
I see two parts to the story. The ending of a movie theater, the ending of an era of showing films, but the character's ending of a relationship with his family, because he does not know them in the sense that he doesn't live with them. So is the destruction of the theater the metaphor for his life? In other words, what is your central focus? Is it him and his relationship with his family, or is it him and his relationship with the cinema?
For me, it's like the man is himself and his relationship. His himself with the cinema theater is the theater is the background of the story, but his conflict in his mind is like his relationship
with his family.
Yeah.
Okay. Breathless.
Which gives me some confusion right now, so please clarify. The movie house is not operating anymore, it will be destroyed soon. So what do we see in your film? One, maybe the answer is you have shot some footage before that, and you will use that as material that will comprise a 60-minute film, because what comes after is I would like to know if it's all just reflections using an earlier footage leading all the way to the moment it's destroyed. So I want to see what will I see in your film.
It's the sequence of the film. It's like the ending, the last day is just opening the film. It's like the film will start the day that after the theater will close down. So the storyline is like the last day, and the next day I go to precisely to his daily life, which is after the theater is closed down, and then I continue back to his hometown, and then the ending is the theater is demolished.
From the perspective of the character that we discover from this projection we find that we asked him, so many times, why don't you go and look for other jobs? And he said that he doesn't want to leave this world because this has been his life. And then we kind of our interest is more into the relationship that he has with the cinema.
Okay, so what we see is the movie house is not operating, but
yes.
he is still living
He's
there,
still living
and
there.
that is
Yes.
the story of
Yes.
almost
Yeah.
like
Yes. But
abandonment and
But the background conflict is in his personal relationship with his family, because he hardly go there, and then he kind of lock himself in, and even he go back home and he still don't find himself attached to the family. So that's why we discover that the cinema in the mind of this character never goes away. I mean, we are very interested in the idea that the cinema is basically alive in his mind. So this is something that we really wanted to get deeper. So the film. So actually, when we get more and more deeper in the story, we discover that this is just the starting point. So we can go even more deeper. I mean, in the sense that the cinema does it. Even though we don't have the cinema theater, but somehow it's still in his unconscious part because of the fact that he has been living there for such a long time.
Yeah, I still have. It's kind of circling around the same thing, because I think it's a very beautiful metaphor, and I also really like the idea of the setting of this cinema, which is about to be demolished. And just this one guy still living there in like the love of his life, but nevertheless there was nothing happening. It's just him sleeping there, getting some food, reflecting on life. So how do you think it's going to be? A very slow film with like long pictures of just a desolate place? So maybe it's a place like the empty cinema. Is it almost like a protagonist, or do we see him traveling to his family? What I can't really visualize the story.
It's like divided into two parts. But it's like dividing into parts. Mainly it's two parts. First part is like he himself with the theater that he lives with. He locked himself, and also is that space like his illusion, but another space I follow him to his hometown to see.
It's supposed to be reality, but somehow we cannot cope with that reality. So it comes to the later part that the illusion is reality, and this is what we discover. So this is going to be the main structure of the narrative.
So we must leave here. This is all the information of the job. I've got one question. Where's the title coming from?
Yes.
Dark. Where's the title coming from?
It's like himself is, he living slowly, and then the theater is also like a bracelet, that's like a convoy.
Is it referring to the Cinema Vérité Abu the Souffle? Okay. So what I immediately breathless or jump over the wall.
No, go down.
Okay, yeah.
I'm filmmaker from Thailand. In the past 10 years, the situation in Thailand divide people into the big size group, yellow shirt and red shirt. Therefore, it brings a violence and make a loss. Many die, many injure. A lot of people be the victim. I have been joined as an observer in the two sides of protester, and I have record many photo and many video and memory in my mind. Chusinan, my wife, she joined with Yellow Church from 2008 until nowadays. The last moment, she had decided to go back to spending her life at hometown for take care of her mother at the tobacco village, Nong Khai province, northeast of Thailand. The village, they almost support Rachel, same as her brother and her cousin. Everything go on with belief different on the relationship at Tobacco village. This is my film. My trailer is 4 minutes. Please take a look.
คิดไปได้เลยว่าผิดเนี่ยว่าตัวถือยั่วอะไรถือว่าคนเรียนก็ล่าออกแล้วทันทั้งศาลทั้งไหนข้อมาซ่อทั้งไหนผมมาซ่อทั้งไหนก็ล่าออกแล้วเรียนกูไม่รอด
เพราะฉะนั้นการปรับเปลี่ยนประธานนปช.ไม่ได้มีผลในทางที่สมบูรณ์
บ่มีโง่เด้อ
เพิ่นบ่แม่นโง่เด้อถ้าเพิ่นโง่เพิ่นสิมีเงินเป็นหมื่นล้านล่ะถ้าเพิ่นโง่น่ะ
เขาบ่ตอบโต้ซื่อๆเขาบ่ตอบโต้เป็นหยังเขาบ่นั่นซื่อๆ
ถ้าเป็นนายกแล้วก็บ่อึดที่สิใส่ดอกเงินเราน่ะ
เขาบ่ตอบโต้ว่าเขาโง่
โอ๊ตแล้วมีโอ๊ตเห็นว่าเป็นตะโพนเด็กจ้ะมากลับไปเท่านั้นเลยบางทีกับข้าวที่โอ๊ตเอาให้ไปแล้วควรเล่นค่ะสีช่วงมันโอ้หอดคุณคือใกล้ท่าค่ะน่าจะเป็นพวกฟ้าที่ขีดแล้วก็ขาจอมเกี่ยวกับคน
ทั้งหลานมีทหารเต็มมันโยมีกองทัพนับเบิ่งดูสู่ความตายก็บ่ได้ไผสิเว้าว่าบ่กลัว
This is my wife. I do this film for observation to insight different and tell to the audience about the relationship on conflict. and then I will do the next project about someone red shirt in yellow shirt village that have the same situation. Each of film about 50 minutes. Who can I give the floor? Yes.
The protests happen in Bangkok, but your character goes to, which is your wife, goes back home to the Tobago village. So how does the story really evolve? You have shots in Bangkok, and primarily the story will unfold in the Tobago village. How do the two locations create the story?
Yeah, somebody's going up to.
For the story of the Bangkok protest will be the background of the story. Because it happens before the character will go back to hometown in this village. So it's almost depicted as if it's a memory of the character of the Bangkok city. The two protagonists join the protest, and right after they both of them decided to go back to their hometown, we decided to take care of the grandmother, the old woman that you saw. One is his wife, and just one protagonist.
So is the story about a conflict in the village as well as a conflict in Bangkok? In other words, is this conflict that is happening in Bangkok taken back to the village and we see what's happening in terms of the conflict in the village where you've got more personal relationships?
So it's more the Bangkok part, it's more on the surface, like a bigger picture. But in the village, you want to contemplate on a smaller story, much smaller story, the conflict inside among each people in the village, how they confront with the conflict and how it affects to the community.
So if I could just follow that up with one more. So we see this red-yellow shirt conflict in the context of a village to understand it better.
That's what
Okay, because I'm from Europe, I'm obviously, I am aware of the conflict and I've heard it through the news, but I actually don't even know what the yellow and the red shirt stand for exactly. I know, from what I heard, there is a kind of more like middle class opposing the Prime Minister, but I don't really know. So my question as regards to your film is obviously about clarity of information. It's really important, but also, do you already have in mind like main protagonists from the red shirt? So you have your wife who is a yellow shirt and she goes back, as I understand, to a village which is primarily red shirt. And do you already envisage who could maybe be, to talk as a classical film language, an antagonist and a protagonist? So who will be the antagonist to your wife? Or will it be within her, the inner conflict? Or will there actually be one or two people where you already see, or they could be good people to confront her?
ก็ใช่เขามีความรู้สึกว่าเขาเป็นเสื้อเหลืองเขาเชื่อใน belief ของเสื้อเหลืองแล้วก็เขาเป็นเสื้อเหลืองโดยแทบจะเรียกได้ว่าโดยสมบูรณ์
That's, well, you certainly must have more questions, but we leave it here. Thank you very much for your work.
I'm a filmmaker, also a cinematographer in Myanmar. Today I want to present my second project, my second film. This film about the younger gay. The title is White Flower of the Beach. I would like you to present my trailer first. Trailer, please.
他的父母很高的酒，他这么大，他有在他那他来记得，他也说的，他好不容易嘛的，哪里？他看见就跑，多少？他没好不容易。
I was sailing crab in the beautiful beach in Myanmar. Yeah, this beach. The name of the beach is Chona Beach. His name is Chico. He is 7 years old. He wants to be gay. He called himself White Flower. Now he recent drop out his primary school because of his parents unable to pay for his education fee. Now he's selling crab to visitor, not for eating, to release back into the sea. So other people selling to eating. So
sorry, I didn't quite get it. He's selling the
crab to the visitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not for eating, to release back into the ocean. Yeah. And he have his elder sister. He wearing a dress from his elder sister. The other gay man wearing dress like him in Myanmar because of culture different. His parents cannot accept it to him to become gay. Now he stay with his parents and abuses his father and estrange his mother. He really difficult to stay with his family. He have a lot of challenge with his family. Only accepted his sister to become gay. So now he he changed his life. He changed his life gay. He wearing dress with like his sister. He's selling crab, and also. Now I'm this film project. Now I'm pre-production. I will be start in coming September. This one can be long feature film, feature documentary. I hope we can capture his life. How he learn more about life, hardship, and love and despair. Yeah.
Great potential story. You want to make a feature-length film, which is a long film.
Yes.
How do you see your narrative arc? Because that doesn't come through in your pitch. Where does the film take us? What is going to be your narrative structure in this film? What's going to happen to the film?
Yeah, I would like to show his transition life, change his struggle life, and also his lonely life. Now he cannot take care of his parents, cannot take care of his parents, and also other girl and other boy, his friends, so they discriminated to him. And yeah.
I mean, you need an arc in your if you're gonna hold a film for such a long period of time, there's got to be some transitions that happen. What are the transitions you expect?
Yeah, until he came out his hidden mind Gail came out. Yeah, I mean, came out his hidden mind Gail. Yeah.
Maybe I understand your question, but maybe to kind of break it down to something smaller. What is the nature of the problems with the parents? Do they shout at him? Do they ignore him? Do they say you have to leave our house? So what is the nature of the problems? And another question, what are the main questions you are raising when you go on the journey of this film? You have a very strong character there, but what questions will you be dealing with through the journey of the film?
The first question is about because of our law, so our government didn't allow the same sex to marry. So that's why also the abuse, yeah.
But how do the parents react to him? What do they do? Do they shout at him? Do
Yeah.
they say you have to leave our house?
No.
What is the nature of the conflict?
He stay normal life in front of his parents. So behind it, he wear dress.
But how do his parents react? My question is, what do the parents do? Do they do anything?
Yeah, they hit it.
They hit it. Okay. And what are the questions you are raising through the journey of the film?
Yeah.
What are you curious about?
Yeah, he want to go to school.
Does he deal with these school teachers and the friends?
Yes.
Do they bully him?
Yeah, they bully him. Yeah, it's, like a discriminate. What should I say?
Any more questions?
It's more of a reservation that I have. Children like this are pretty vulnerable, and they can really be shaped by the questions that you raise, by the situations that you put them in. And this is not really a question, but a concern for really young children. It all depends, and that's why it makes it very important that these questions are raised, because in the end, it's not that you will determine the story of the film, but you are the main force that will really shape the situation, because otherwise, will you just follow this little child with very little decision making happening in a very young age like that? So I'm just concerned exactly at the amount of work and amount of engagement that you will have. So it's more of searching yourself in relation to your subject, because I strongly feel now that you will actually be shaping the story more than this kid will be shaping his own story. So it's more of that concern.
Yeah, and you will also, you will become a person of attachment, maybe even like a substitute father figure for his child. So how do you deal with that? Because you've got to go at some point. When your film is finished, you're probably leaving again.
And who will give you permission to make the film? Because the kid is too young.
Very sensitive.
Yes. You made your point, yes. It's very important that he's dealing with other things outside just to make another movie of a particular boy.
Because the parents have to give you the permission. Otherwise you won't actually be allowed to make the film. Do you have the permission?
Yes, they accept.
Do they know that you are making a film about a boy who wants to be gay, not just a film about a boy?
Yeah,
they know.
Yes.
And they won't hit him.
They beat him.
Good morning to all of you, and my name is Ruelo, and I'm a filmmaker from Manila, Philippines. And I'm here to present to you my next project. There's this rapid development happening in the Philippines right now. You can see infrastructures everywhere, high-rise condominiums that are being built, and as well as real estate development. And amidst these changes, there are things that need to be moved out, and some of these are ancestral houses. These ancestral houses are torn apart, dismantled, and transferred in a camp, in a holiday resort. And yeah, but there are houses that are alive, that are actually breathe, and actually these houses could walk by itself. And I want to show you a video to give you a glimpse about what I am about to tell to you. There are three parts of the film. The first part focus on the house that is being relocated. The one that you saw is something like that. The house needs to be relocated, and yeah, I will follow this transportation of this house from the beginning, from the gathering of the relatives, the neighbors, and you're gonna put poles underneath, and they talk to each other about their memories, about home, maybe about their family abroad. Okay, this house will be dislodged from its lot because of development in the property. They have to be relocated somewhere else, and yeah, they will lift the house across rice field, different roads, terrains, in the mountains, in the jungles, and until the house reaches its final destination. Okay, there are times that the transportation is being interrupted by a bad weather or other obstacles that they will encounter along the way. And the second part of the film is the story of this antique collector who buys ancestral colonial houses that are transplanted and reconstructed them in his resort and to serve as a restaurant and as a hotel.
So sorry, just for understanding, he collects houses, he kind of goes, sees a nice house, buys it and has it put somewhere else to be used as a restaurant. Okay, it was just an understanding problem.
Okay, this antique collector is also very superstitious. Okay, he believes that spirits can be attached to possessions, and yeah, upon the transportation of his newly acquired mansion, he will be interrupted because many believes that this furniture is believes that it is haunted, this furniture. So the transportation of is being stopped by that superstitious belief. The question is, will he continue to uprooting this house? Okay, the third part would be about this group of locals and heritage advocates who fight for their historical landmark. This special house, iconic house, that is a maternal ancestral home of our national hero Jose Rizal. Yeah, because a real estate developer bought this house to convert it into a restaurant, or to transport it into his heritage resort.
Yes. Yeah. What is the need for a three-structure story? Because my feeling now, listening to you, is that suddenly it becomes a reportage rather than really you have a very strong story. Be confident about that. You know, house with legs. I mean, the images were strong, but now suddenly it seems like you give yourself this added burden of, okay, one is about conservation, one is about possession, one is about mobility and bayanihan, the neighborhood spirit. So I just want the rationale behind why break it up into three when it might be stronger as one.
Okay, actually the central story of this film is like following this house, that is being carried by people.
We get that.
And yeah, and the the story about the antique collector and the preservation of this iconic house will serve as a motive transition.
Find one place. I mean, if you have a house that is being transported because they built a resort, then you already have two stories. You have the stories of the investors who want to build, and you have the story of the house that is moving. And the antique collector, you know, maybe you don't find an antique collector, but you have one story. You have the different viewpoints in one story. You might even have people meeting each other. You might have the investor meeting the house owners. Maybe you still see how they live there, and then this guy comes in. You know what I mean? That otherwise it seems like it's
but I think that is his story. Isn't that you're trying to explain the conflict during the transportation of this house, aren't you? Or am I misunderstanding your idea of the book?
Do the three strings of narration, are they located in one place, or are they in different places?
They will be interspersed in different
places. So they don't know each other, they have nothing to do with each other.
Okay.
Where are the clips from that we just saw? Is it YouTube or?
Yeah. Some people.
Some more questions.
But I think my issue has not really been quite addressed. That finding the core of your story, which is the movie of your house. So now what you're saying is that the others are will be kind of variations of the same theme. It's just that it happens on the historical level, it happens on the restoration level, and now it's a commercial level. All right, now I'm beginning to understand it. But for you to have phrased it as this will come in three segments, somehow there was a disconnect in terms of, are they going to be three separate things? I mean, really individually, one after the other, or they are interwoven. So I think the key, as I read your proposal, the key thing is for you to maybe use the word that they are interwoven, now we get a better picture that these are resonances that you are playing with for the same theme. So
also, it's not just some house; it's a very special house.
it is, yeah. That's why.
Have you found the house already? Are you
It's the
talking about
historical
it?
of the hero.
Other results.
What's the story of
But
the
they're
hero?
not fighting about this house.
They're not. It's a resonance. It's using it merely as a resonance. That's why. Values
They
that
are
you
fighting
place.
about this house.
Well, that's my point.
You write their names down. I don't know what I'm going to do with them yet, but I know they are interesting. So after a period of time, I start seeing a connection. So one thing that linked them together is they're devoted and they're passionate about what they love, which is really hard in this day in Thailand, because often people didn't do what they love. They go to school and by the parents and everything. So this is really the subject that I want to make, and this title of the film, the working title, is called The Object of Their Affection. It's a feature documentary, 60 minutes. The story about 4 persons from 4 different ages, 16, 22, 36, and yeah. They are from 4 different parts of Thailand, and basically they share the same thing. It's like they are so devoted of what they are doing. This is the short video I put together so you can see the feel. Enjoy. First one is Juan, 16 years old. He's really devoted about, he's really want to be a tour guide, so he quit school. And that's really strong against his mother will, so his mother stopped giving money and he living with his cousin and become boat driver guy. On the weekday he drive people across the island, but on the weekend he is like a tour guide. Second one is 22 years old toy factory worker. She's on the weekdays she do all this work in toy factory, and there's a lot of material left, so she collect them, she bring them home, and whenever she has time she make her own toys, and she's not selling them, she just keep them. And in her house she has over 200 toys that she make herself. It's kind of obsession. This is Max. He is a crocodile show guy who put his head on the mouth of the crocodile every day. Yeah. And he got bitten twice, like part of his ear was off, and he's still doing it. And this is really low paid job, lower than the minimum wage. He survived by a tip of the people who watch this. So this is the Get what I mean. Nobody in like normal minds doing that. Interesting. Yeah. Lastly is this old lady. She is in like north of Thailand. She's living in her village, and they has the tradition that they like murder the baby if the baby make the mother die. So she is the only one who against this back on that time, and she take the baby and she got kicked out from the village. So she's just like kind of from that now she start orphanage house, and those kids are all in there, and she raised them by gardening and find some money, and some people are donated to them, and that's the film. That's the thing I really interesting in, like this people, this is like portrait of Thailand. It's like reflect of. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's like the end is like being bit by the crocodile. Suddenly, it's there. These crocodiles don't have a memory.
How do you intend to structure your film with 4 stories?
Okay. So they're like first part of the film is going to be like observational. It's going through their everyday lives, and I'm going to like intercut it so we can see like one thing link them is passion, but it's different part of Thailand, and they like in the morning and in the lunchtime, afternoon. Basically one day, but it's not really one day, but we can make like one day. So, and this is like, you can say chaos when all the kids, like 20, 30 of them, having breakfast, preparing for breakfast, and some of them go to Muslim temple, some of them go to church, kind of have no interview or no sound, just like observing what they've been through every day, and it's gonna make audience raise the question like why they keep doing this. It's not like why they keep doing this, and the last part gonna be like headshot interview. We're gonna only see their face talking, only like last part about why they're doing this, what they thought about lives.
Everyone, I am my book. I'm from Vietnam. I'm script writer and filmmaker. My film is called Great Artist. Great Artist. Now I want show my trailer for everyone.
Nhiều đêm còn không một mình mẹ nơi thương người, còn kịp sống đời con mồ côi tội lắm mẹ ơi, đêm đêm lặng lùng thằng con lầm lùng giữa đời bao giàu. Mẹ phải quay cho con mãi bao ngày con chẳng trời mưa làm chi, trời mưa làm gì, Anh xin một bán sẽ là bán cái lời ca hát, cũng là cái nét đẹp văn hóa của Việt Nam. Cái người hát là cái người vất nhất là mình. Đấy. Không những người đi lấy tiền thì làm sao mình có tiền được. Mình đóng là mùi đi ăn xin ấy. Thì mình thấy là cái lợi là rất là nhiều. Mình đi một ngày mà trong đấy một ngày tính một ngày thôi, mà trong đấy là mình đi 3 tiếng 1,5 triệu. Thế mình thấy là cái người ca hát ấy, hát rong, đặc biệt là hát rong rất được nhiều tiền. Tổng thống xin nhà bà đến lên Quảng Sơn, Thanh Hóa.
And I want to make a long film about 29-year-old man named Dũng. He who has a passion for singing cải lương, which is a folk song in Vietnam. Dũng was born in a poor family. But because of his passion for singing cải lương, he tries to enter the Hanoi Academy of Theatre and Cinema, and handicapped person, and singing folk song on the street. In June he will graduate in June. Yeah, in June. In June he will graduate, but he cannot find a more suitable job as a singer.
My name is Kavish. I'm from Cambodia. At the moment I'm working on a documentary film project. The story is about a former soldier traumatized of the war and seeking his inner peace through his artwork as a sculptor. Before I tell you the story, let me give you my inspirations. One day, I walked into a sculpture studio and I saw a man curving a statue, and I saw an elephant on his statue, and I asked him why you curving elephants, and then he told me this elephant seeking for shelter. And he is also seeking for shelter, as him and his wife is also seeking for shelter, because they are going to divorce very soon. You might ask me, who is that sculptor? The sculptor is my father. This is my family story. I feel that now I'm seeking for shelter. Now, of course, my father and my mother are seeking for shelter. Now let me give you a trailer, and after that.
he was forced into marriage with a lady that he never feel in love. And we also see his present and his family's tension that they are going to divorce. And my style is I will use my narrative. I will be this project will be a narrative using my voice and also observational documentary. Even though you will see the history, but it will reflect my feeling and my reflection to this problem. And before, sorry. I think it's important for me as I'm this generation because I feel that I'm the first generation who family traumatized from the war. And I feel that I can witness from generation to another generation its influence and reflection. And I feel that I'm also a victim of my parents' generation. This is the story that I want to tell about.
It's a very emotional story.
Thank you.
How are you going to manage to keep yourself with the right distance making the film while being in it at the same time?
Well, actually, I think that at the beginning I used the style of observational. It means I will let my father and I will let my situation, what happened in my family, and then during that, I will begin, my feeling and my reflection to that problem. So I feel that I will be distant, from the first I show the problem, and then I will put my feeling and what I think about this problem. So this is I feel that I want to find, how this generation reflect from one generation to another generation. You got what I mean?
And narrow it down to a particular situation. You're talking about trauma.
Okay.
Trauma means that something is hidden in a person,
yes,
which is very painful to reveal, and it can even be dangerous to reveal if it comes out or is stimulated to come out at the right time.
Yes.
So I have 2 or 3 questions. One is, how do you feel your father is dealing with this trauma? Secondly, how much do you feel that something is hidden? Thirdly, are you intending to try to go beyond the walls that your father built? And this is a very difficult thing to do for any filmmaker, but even harder for the son.
Yeah, you're right. Well, for me, I know that it's very touching for me as a son, but I think the film begins, the story of how we make this sculpture called Elephants Seeking for Shelter, that he named it, and he said that through this I will discover, more about his inner, feeling, how he feels and how he's depressed, being forced into marriage with my mother. And beside this, I think, beside this, I can go deeper, how he can express, his feeling through his sculpture.
Can I ask another question?
Yes, sure.
Do you think there will be moments of confrontation where maybe you as a son ask questions your father doesn't want to hear? And how will you be dealing with his authority then? Because if somebody's got authority over you, then it will be most likely your father or your mom. Will there be moments of friction? Of conflict between you and your father, you think? Do you think there will be moments of conflict? Or will you always be in tune with his way of telling you this story?
I think there is a scene that I will, talking to my mother, like as a point of view as a filmmaker, but also a son, that interviewing the questions, and there will be something that intention himself, and I will let it go, how he feel about his problems.
Is there something you're angry about, how he dealt with you as a child? Yeah, is there something you're angry about? You want to say, Dad, why did you always do this to me? This was wrong? Is there moments like this?
Well, I feel that because through my point of view, when I see the family like this, like my father, I feel that he's become so lonely because he doesn't talk to my mom. Even sometimes his children and my brother, I feel that he's become a loneliness. And even me,
as I'm a son, when I see this problem, my mom, my father, they talk to each other. I feel that I'm so lonely, So this is what I want to tell them.
And that is why I am interested in the unsaid and unheard and unseen, and that's your mother. Where does the mother come into the picture? It seems like it's a story of the son and the father. I understand that, but it seems like emotionally your attachment and your concern is with the mother. So one, why do you? What part of the film is your mother? I'm very curious about that.
Well, actually, I will shot the film. I will include the film with my father and my mother. Because they're not talking, so I will show the activities, daily life. And through that scene, I hope that this film will give you the feeling like how my mom and how my father is being lonely, even they're living together.
That gives you enough information to reflect about, because these kind of films are sometimes very therapeutical.
There it is. Yeah.
That's right. Who's the counterpoint to you?
Who's the counter? Yeah.
To help you go through this.
Because the other half of the therapy can really be with the mother. Otherwise, you are so preferential to the story, intense about it. We feel the intensity, but if this were to be a form of therapy, or you're finding answers to this, the other half of the answer is with your mother. And I'm just afraid of a systematic repression of the other half of the equation, and that's your mother. And I can feel that the reason why you want to confront your father is because of your mother. Are we correct?
The danger in a family story, when it becomes very emotional, is always that the family in itself has a set rules of values within which they work together. If I'm a filmmaker and I enter a new cosmos, obviously I have to know something about it, but I always have the advantage of looking at it from the outside. So your advantage is that you are the younger generation, but this is why I also ask you about friction. Because if you're only circling within the values that your mom and your dad have given you, you're not gonna have the distance. And which, as a consequence for the film, means it's gonna be shallow. The only way not to make it shallow is that you have to overcome set values. And we're talking about a painful journey. Otherwise, it's going to be shallow. That's it.
You're completely right.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's a good notion.
Yeah, thank you for comments.
Yeah. Any more? There's so many questions. But I think in the doing, it will be revealed like the elephants are coming out from the wood. It's that's quite strong.
So I just want to start that introduce myself. My name is Lisa and I'm from Jakarta. My background is fiction. I make fiction, short fiction, and now I start to make documentary. So I start to enjoy this documentary thing. And the title is Spider Labs. Why Spider Labs? Because Spider Labs is a group of independent filmmaker in Jakarta. So we just start this February, and we found that the center of production film in Jakarta. So it's like a historical building because they made the production many film and really have historical effect in our history, especially in in our cinema. So when we visit the abandoned building, we found that many archives inside the building. They have like a 3 storage, and we know that from the the camp they still have the title, what the title is, and we know from the we research from the Google, and many of the film they have a glorious moment, like we found the Pinjang is like a adventure film, and film is won in our film festival in 1955. So when we try to open again, and the film already changed become stone. So we feel like angry, we sad, and we don't know how to start because you know that in Indonesia they don't have like a good document to set their archive. That's why Spider Lab now try to looking for how we tell the story, how we tell, how we start the story, because I feel that I've adopted by Western movie, not Indonesian movie. That's why I wanted to, I'm curious, and I want to.
Kondisinya gimana tuh? Udah batu ya? Iya dik, udah batu tuh dik.
Udah nempel banget.
Tapi kata si apa? Yang dari bulunya itu yang waktu dari sini itu, situ masih bisa. Kemarin nemu. Belum masih ada.
Itu dokumenter apa?
Fiksi.
Fiksi.
Suraiji.
Tentang apa filmnya?
Yang menang itu apa sih nama tata kamera terbaik.
Ini kan katanya tadi kata si ibu direktur siapa namanya?
Selfie.
Yang barusan.
Yang jilbab ya? Iya. Kenapa tadi?
Ini katanya sisa-sisa dari udah sampahan nih.
Iya. Mungkin dia nggak ngerti mau ngarahi gimana kali.
Berarti kalau sampahan kita ambil aja nih.
Hitungannya sih gitu.
Ntar gue ngomong. Katanya ada sampahan.
Ini dokumen semua ini.
Iya, gila begini dibilang sampahan.
Cinema in Indonesia, like black and white, it's like a study movie. And after that, they have growing up until they have a color, and because we have in 1970 we produced like 700 films in 1 year, and after that 80s, and we have less than 600, and in 90 we did. We don't have, a year to go through. So we want to use. Our archive is like a human. They have birth, they have, they have teenager, they're married, and they now trying to survive in their own way. And after that, we try to combine all the film. It's not a new film, so it's not like just get one shot or just continue with another, but we create like they try to talk with try to talk with us. So at the end, we will use only sound, only the dialogue with the situation now, with the demolishing building. So the dialogue, like they try to tell us, but with whispering, they become a ghost. So I think that's what I want to use in my film, my project.
Okay, thank you very much. We don't know our history, we don't know where we're going to.
Yeah.
So, any questions?
Trying to restore the archive. And is that going to be your main story? And if that's the main story, what are your underlying layers?
So I want to, like find from the start, from the early cinema until now, and we want to reconnect each film. And we found that it's really difficult to have an access. So that's the story is the cinema itself, how we want to survive there.
Access to?
We have like 3 storage in Jakarta, but mostly they don't give us easy access to to use the footage. So we will use from YouTube or the private collector to try to assemble the footage.
But so is your story about the history of Indonesian cinema, or is it about restoring this archive, or finding a way to restore this
Indonesian
archive? Because
cinema.
when you see this archive, then you just think, oh my God.
Maybe just
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. I now want to hear the story of your film, not the story of Spiderweb. I understand what Spiderweb is doing. It's trying to preserve, to make public, to get money, to get into these other archives. But I now want to hear what is the main story of your film.
It's about Indonesian cinema.
That's too vague.
Because we know that when we want to, when we want to invite other people to take care about the archive, we want to show first what is Indonesian cinema. So the whole film I will use all footage from the Indonesian cinema and try to make a new one. It's like try to connect with younger people now that they even didn't know that the film exists.
See, sorry, maybe if I could just take this another step, because when we talk about stories and making films, we have to think about who's our audience. And you've got a chance of making this film for a local audience, but you also have a chance of making this a universal film. And my kind of gut feeling is that if you want to make this a universal film, it's about trying to figure out how this archive is going to be restored. And through that, you get to the history of the Indonesian cinema. But the main story is looking at, oh God, what do you do in this kind of a situation? And it's got the potential to be a very strong story. The story of Indonesian cinema is an underlying story, because us from outside, we would only get glimpses of something like that. And in a way, it's interesting, but it's not as interesting as how do you deal with the situation of having all these films which are being destroyed and about to disappear. And maybe, there's a project called World Cinema Collective, I think, or something like that, which helps restore old films. And if it's a story about trying to find the people who are going to help you restore these films, this guy from Bologna in Italy or whatever, it becomes really interesting. So it's about the layers that you put into a film with this potential story.
You have to make sure that you are on the quest as a group, but you're also a filmmaker making a film. This is why I said I understand what you do as a group, but I didn't really understand what is your story. What are your main characters? Who are they? Who are Spiderweb? Who are you going to follow? Who's going to do what? And then we obviously, as you said, we have the other layers of preserving history and making it known. But you're in like two positions here. You're part of Spiderweb, but you're also the filmmaker who's making a film about Spiderweb, which is fine. But you have, so the main quest of the overall story is, what is the main quest of the story?
How we want to recognize our history, our cinema's history. So, like you said, that we will, because we just know that the building will be demolished, and we said younger people, they only, they don't want to get involved with the bureaucracy. That's why we want to challenge ourselves to find the archive, and after that we can show to another, show to audience to see how this is important for us, for our history, because we don't know our cinema.
Pages of the most
You're not making a story about how can we make film be recognized. This is going to be underlined. But your story is going to be about a group of people who are fighting to preserve this treasure they found. And they are obviously coming across obstacles, like bureaucracy, like, the rich people who are, so this is your main story. And everything else, the preservation, the history of the country, bits of the films are obviously will be part of the film, but you have to be clear about what the story is, otherwise you're going to get lost.
So far, I would say with an opening line,
기술시가에서